Hello, welcome, nice to see you. Today we are going to talk about bedtimes in older babies, so toddlers, preschoolers, 18 months, 2 years and up kind of thing. This was this is a requested chat, and I think it's timely. I think with the times these days and the summer with the days being lighter and COVID and everything else, that a lot of us are off schedule and toddlers are running wild and not wanting to go to bed and up late, and we've got a lot of exhausted mamas. So today we're going to talk about bedtimes and specifically what's normal, what does the research say, and what are the recommendations, all right? So there was a study that came out last year, and there's been a couple of studies, but really this is not something, strangely enough, there's not a lot of research on sleep. So there was a study that came out last year, and I forget the author's name, Hoyniak, I think. Anyways, it was published in a child development journal, so respected study in any case, and they looked at 500 toddlers and they followed them. So from the age of 2.5 to 3.5, I believe, and they monitored their sleep using actigraphy. So they, measured, put things on their brain and measured their sleep waves, all right? And what they found was really quite interesting, you guys. This is not going to be what you expect, okay? So average bedtime, okay? Average time that parents put their toddlers and preschoolers to bed was about 9 o'clock, just before 9 o'clock. But the average time that the kids fell asleep was about 9:30. Now, why is this? Why is this? If you ask anybody, if you ask any of my clients or any of my friends, family members, what time they think kids should go to bed, they're going to say probably like 6 or 7, maybe 8. How many of you have had feedback from somebody like, oh, your kids are up late, you better get them to bed, they need to go to sleep, they need so much sleep, they're going to be cranky in the morning, right? All of these different things. So why is this? Well, these toddler and preschool years are hard because these kids still need naps. Contrary to popular opinion, that naps are dropped around 2 or 3. Really, we want to be keeping naps much longer. The problem is when we have naps at this later age, they're not tired at the bedtime of 7 or 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock, right? Because they've napped, so they need that time to build up the sleep drive, that sleep pressure for them to be sleepy again. So because mamas and parents and everybody else wants that downtime in the evening, I mean, I sure do, our societal tendency is to want to put them to bed earlier so that we can have, a glass of wine, some Netflix time, do something for ourselves, with our friends, with our hubbies, whatever it is, right? So we have this tendency to want to put kids to bed earlier. And what I often see is that results in kind of bedtime battles and kids not wanting to go to bed, asking for a million glasses of water, wanting a cuddle, wanting another story, just singing and dancing and bouncing all over the room, all of these different things. And now, I mean, there's no one size fits all excuse for any of that. Sometimes it comes down to needing connection. Sometimes it's just not having a great bedtime routine. But a lot of times it's that their child just isn't sleepy enough. And whether that's because they had too short of a nap or they didn't have any nap, or maybe they are super overtired and they needed to go back to bed earlier. Like, there's so many different things. But I guess what I'm trying to come across is that most people have later bedtimes for their kids. Of these 500 toddlers and preschoolers studied, most of them were falling asleep around 9:30. So if you are lucky enough to have a toddler or preschooler that goes to bed earlier, count yourself lucky, because that is not the norm. So here's another kind of where the plot thickens a little bit. All right, so kids were on average falling asleep around 9:30, sleeping through till morning. They were in bed for about 10 hours, 10 and a half hours, but we're only getting about 8 or 8.5 hours sleep. All right, so that's because kids wake up at night. We all do. Adults wake up at night. Whether they wake you up is another thing. Some toddlers wake their parents up, some don't, but we all wake up at night. And so when you subtract kind of the time trying to get them to fall asleep from the time, or when you add that up, sorry, the time that you're taking to get them to fall asleep, plus the time that these actigraphies were measuring that they were awake at night, with the time that they're maybe awake in the morning before actually getting out of bed, although that's not too common in toddlers. They usually just bounce out of bed with so much energy, don't they? But when you add up all those times, it leads to a lot of time in bed that's not actually spent sleeping, it's spent awake. So when you look at the time spent sleeping, it's not a lot. It's about 8 hours, and it kind of increases over time from 8 to like 8.5, a little 8 3/4, as kids age, which is actually the opposite of what you might think, but that's because daytime sleep needs decrease, and so they're starting to get that sleep at nighttime more instead. Okay. So what are the sleep recommendations? The National Sleep Foundation recommends for toddlers to get 11 to 14 hours of sleep. Now that's not at night, that's in a 24-hour period. And so that sometimes kind of misleads parents because they think that should be all at night. And then they're striving for these 12-hour nights, and the kids just aren't tired. They're not really wanting to sleep that much. So between naps and bedtime, that's what they are recommending. Whereas for preschoolers, kind of the 3 to 5 age, it's 10 to 13 hours a night, okay? Or in a 24-hour period, sorry. But they don't really distinguish between time in bed versus time asleep. So that's a tricky one. The best judge is honestly to look at your child, okay? What else was I gonna say? Let me look at my notes here. I'm trying to keep things quick. Yeah. So just to summarize, we think there's these recommendations that kids need this much sleep, but at nighttime, what the research is showing is that they're only getting this much sleep. So what does that mean? We need to be really thinking about these naps and how we're timing them, and letting go of our thinking that kids need to be in bed at a certain time. Yes, maybe we want that wind down time as adults in the evening, but maybe we need to be relooking at our society and thinking where can we as parents get our self-care that's outside of these evening times. Maybe we can be building it into our days somehow, through, caregiving exchanges or extended families, bringing that mama village in closer, right? So the take-home messages here are: if you have a late bedtime for your child, that's okay. If your child is waking up at night or not getting the recommended 11 to 14 or 10 to 13 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period, that's okay. If you're feeling or experiencing pressure, outside pressure from friends or family to sleep train your child because they're just not going to bed on time or they're waking up lots at night, just be reassured that this is normal, and your best judge is your own intuition and how your child is doing and what their behavior is like during the day. If you are in doubt and you're really concerned, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to have a quick chat and let you know whether I think I can help you. Or if you're interested, by the way, I also have a little freebie on my website, a little bedtime guide that can offer some tips as well to make the bedtime little routine and that a little bit smoother. All right, so there you have it. Later bedtimes is common. I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this. It's a little bit of I bet you, a surprise for many of you, hey? All right, thanks so much, guys. Bye.